Hooey Hooly Hollywood.
Hello and welcome back to Haunted Basement, the podcast. I'm AJ.
I'm Bubba.
And I'm Ashley.
We're siblings. We run a production company called Haunted Basement.
All right.
And this is our podcast where we talk about the movies, music, and pop culture that inspires and influences our video work.
Today we're going to tackle a topic that's kind of been top of mind for the past few episodes, or we've been
Hot
kind
topic.
of like, we've been like flirting with the topic a little bit. And actually in our last episode with Billy Magnuson, it came up quite a bit.
Check it out. Good
And
episode.
Very coincidentally, the day after we recorded with Billy Magnuson, this podcast episode on The Daily dropped, in which the New York Times film critic A.O. Scott kind of announced that he was retiring from film criticism and going to book reviews instead. We realized that a lot of what we were talking about with Billy coincided with things that A.O. Scott was saying about the state of film criticism, the state of the film industry at large, and why he doesn't want to do film criticism anymore. So we figured we would spend some time talking about it, chatting about it, digesting it, mulling it over.
Lots to discuss here.
I listened to that episode with A.O. Scott a few times, and my hot take, my initial reaction is it sounds like a man who has reached his midlife crisis. What do y'all think about that?
So I listened to it a few times, but the first time I listened to it, I was like, he comes off as an elitist here.
A man who's worked for the New York Times for 20 years, an elitist?
I know. Obviously,
And he's
the New York
attacking
Times-
Marvel movies and superhero
Yeah,
movies.
and it was mostly when he talked about how he got his start with movies. You know, my mother brought us to Paris, and I used to just go into the theaters and catch the film.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, that's a dramatized version of it. But yeah, I was like, oh, man, I don't know if this is the man that we want talking about this.
Yeah, he is an easy target, but let's talk before we get into our hot takes. Let's give a brief overview for anybody that hasn't heard the news. So A.O. Scott, film critic for the New York Times. He's leaving film criticism, the world of film criticism. He talks about his background, as Ashley just mentioned, about falling in love with movies, in love with films. But then the reason why he doesn't want to continue reviewing and offering criticism for films is that Hollywood is now producing a ton of these IP-driven films, franchises, and branded movies. IP standing for intellectual property, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about the Star Wars franchise that seems to produce a new series or a movie every other month.
Jurassic World,
The Marvel Universe, the DC Universe.
anything that has pre-sold audiences based on you already know what this concept is before you see the movie.
Right.
Space Jam.
All the nostalgic remakes that Disney has produced over the many years. A.O. Scott is saying that film criticism almost doesn't even have a place in the world today because the massive fan base with these IP-driven movies doesn't allow for it. If you're a fan of the Marvel Universe, you are just looking forward to the next film because you're already a fan. You're predisposed to just love it and accept it and want more.
He says superhero movies seem to be designed to be critic-proof.
Exactly.
And we can talk about all of what that means.
I just imagine him being bombarded by maybe not trolls, but like, you know, the Redditors that
Super
love
fans.
Marvel. That are just
yeah.
like attacking him for a bad review of something.
Well, he talks about how Samuel L. Jackson started this whole trend back when the first Avengers came out, and A.O. Scott had a negative review about it, and Samuel L. Jackson sent all of the Marvel fans against him. And he's like, we gotta get a film critic who actually can do his job or something like that. And then I'm looking at Samuel L. Jackson. I'm like, when was the last time you ever acted in a non-Marvel / Capital One commercial?
What's in your wallet?
Shots fired.
oh my God, what's in your wallet, baby?
But does he have to be since he was in Pulp Fiction?
I guess he's earned it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's in your wallet?
But okay, this isn't about Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, it's not about
But it
Leave
is because
Samuel
that's
L.
the
out of it.
caliber of person who was in these Marvel movies. So
Yeah,
it kind of is about him.
you cast 10 huge stars and you put them in superhero costumes, and people are going to buy a ticket for the opening weekend, and that's Marvel/Disney's plan for the last decade plus.
That's one kind of aspect of A.O. Scott's displeasure. But the other aspect, or the other thing that he kind of points to as, attributing to the downfall of film criticism or film viewing, movie experiencing,
Yeah, all the above for this one.
is streaming, right? Like the Netflixes, the HBO Maxes, the Paramount Pluses, Peacock. We live in a world now where the majority of people do not go to theaters to see a movie. We just stay in and we binge The Office, or we binge the next season of Succession, which I plan to do. And that has changed our viewing habits. Like, that's changed the way that we experience these movies, these television shows, and relate to them, and the way that we value them.
Yeah. Back when we were younger, you had a month or two to go see a movie in theaters, probably even less, and then it would be gone for 6 to 8 months while it waited to come out on home video. And even before our generation, if you didn't catch that movie in theaters, you probably might not see it ever again in your life. Like, there's the risk of that. So there's there's just a heightened value when you make something scarcer, and there's no scarcity in the streaming generation.
This is why we saw Spider-Man 2 3 times in theaters back in the day at Showcase Cinemas.
This is why we held hands and wept during The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King in theaters.
You cuties.
Oh my God. Wept. Oh, it was so good. Let's talk about reactions quick. Because my reaction, you guys already know my reaction. I really miss the days where you weren't inundated by content and the the infinite scroll. Even the infinite scroll is kind of seeped into Netflix, where the same habit of going through and endless content being offered. You're kind of paralyzed by all the options.
Too much, yeah.
And you ultimately default to what's easiest. You go back to The Office, and you kind of just it turns into comfort more than a
challenge.
Not everything has to be a challenge,
just
but
new.
Yeah, just a novel experience. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, back in the day when we had a VCR and just a stack of VHS tapes, you make a relationship with all the movies that you have in your library, right? Because you're watching them on repeat.
Ultimately, we picked Mary Poppins and sang Chim Chimney, Chim Chimney.
Yeah, that's what you do. Even if you don't love the movies, you watch them enough to develop some kind of critical reaction to them.
Even more so than a critical reaction, you develop a relationship with them. You were saying this on Billy's episode. You were saying, we had that X-Men DVD. I don't know if that's a great movie, but we watched it so many times that it was just that it was part of our identity. And I don't know if that exists. I don't know if that exists for this new generation at all, which makes me a little bit sad that movies seem like they're dying.
I don't know if they're dying or if they're just evolving, and it's just one of the thousands of millions of things that you can consume now.
Yeah.
Because if you were to ask a young person what their favorite type of media is, it's probably either someone on TikTok or some sort of video game.
Yeah.
And those things are magical to them. Their technology is so impressive and so crazy. It might be like when you were watching Jurassic Park, but it's just a different form of media. And things like TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff has just certainly shortened attention span. So it's a very interesting challenge for something like the movie industry. How do you gain these viewers.
Everything seems very niche now. And in my head, I'm thinking about fans of You on Netflix, like random shows that I'm not watching, but I know have a huge audience. So it can't
People
quite
get
be niche. But
obsessed with things.
I still have great conversations about TV shows that I'm watching with family and friends, but a lot of the conversations are often a little bit more superficial about what do you think happened at the end? Like narratively, how do you make sense of this puzzle that they've presented? The writers have kind of, spun this web of mystery that they've spun, and I feel like everything's about dissecting what actually happened as opposed to kind of, I don't know, debating the value of a movie that came out and how it's affecting culture at large,
Right.
I watch a lot of TV for sure, but I get burnt out on the series that are super long where it just seems like you're watching to see how the writers are going to keep a narrative thread going for 3, 4, 5 seasons. It's like you're watching to almost root on a marathon runner, not because the show has, really hooked you. It's like this weird addictive thing.
Movies, as I think we're talking about it, really hit an emotion. And for us, maybe you didn't know how it ended and you could think about it for a while. And now with, all the superhero movies and everything, it's like, well, the CGI just keeps getting better and better. And oh my God, did you see that CGI? And the number of users something has. And like, even the fact that like Netflix users are not the Netflix audience.
Yeah. It's more data driven. When you know that you have a long-term or a product that, that you will be iterating on and giving season or producing season after season after season or Marvel movie after Marvel movie, like, it's definitely data driven. They're absolutely looking at some analytics. They are prioritizing stuff that will sell because they have generated enough data to know what sells. And
it's moved from art to an industry and just making more money.
When you're thinking about the scale of a movie versus a single movie, say a 2.5-hour movie, right, versus a 10-episode long season of television. Within those 2.5 hours as a filmmaker, you need to be making creative decisions that are super, much more efficient sometimes to tell the story, to tell an entire story. But also you need to use these narrative devices that aren't dialogue driven. Like sometimes a single look, in a scene is all you need. And I think that stuff, the less explicit, more implicit stuff is what at least gets my brain going a little bit more and my heart pumping a little bit more when I'm watching movies, because you need to engage with them. It's not as passive as of an experience. Everything isn't spelled out.
Right.
So theater and film, they're very related, right? I feel like film sort of spun off of the theater world. How come theater has been able to sustain itself for centuries now, and film, specifically Hollywood, is 100 years old, and it almost seems like it's doom and gloom, it's about to end? Do you think that Hollywood constantly is worried that it's going to disappear? Like, for example, back in the late 20s when sound was introduced to film, all the people who worked in the silent era were like, well, film is done. This is a whole different thing. It's not Hollywood anymore.
You're Norma Desmond. Used to be in silent pictures. Used to be big.
I am big. It's the pictures that got small.
And then masterpieces were made in the 30s, 40s, 50s. And then television came around in the early 50s. And Hollywood's like, oh shit, we're done. It's a wrap. And then in the 60s, studios were bought by like big oil companies, like Gulf and Western bought Paramount, and everyone's like, oh shit, Hollywood's done. We don't know what to do. We'll just hire a bunch of like young filmmakers who are cheap. And that brought in Spielberg, Scorsese. And to go against what A.O. Scott is saying, I see it as I have never had as many movies that are as accessible as they are now. And I think of this young generation that can watch anything from the newest Marvel movie to like a random Abbas Kiarostami movie. Like they can discover Iranian cinema if they want to at the click of a button.
Right.
And the likelihood that that is going to generate filmmakers who want to continue the trend of making interesting, cool, entertaining movies is very high.
Right.
And I feel like it's always very difficult to make a movie, no matter what decade you're in. So do you think that Hollywood just enjoys being very dramatic about themselves, or like filmmakers enjoy being very dramatic about their art form, whereas the theater world isn't as dramatic about it?
It cannot be translated to streaming on your phone. Like I know that they did that with Hamilton and Disney Plus, but like
It's a different experience.
It's
Different,
such
much
medium
different.
specificity for sure. Like you can stream movies and TV, but not theater.
And movies started out as like, you go for 10 cents, you go see a movie. It was an art for the masses. And now it's like $20 for a ticket.
And then the additional 25 for your medium popcorn.
Hey guys,
Hello. Hi.
I have a question for you.
Oh, go ahead.
Are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you like merch?
If you mean Haunted Basement merch, then yeah.
Whoa! Do we have merch for you, babies?
What do we got?
We got shirts. We got hats. We got totes.
We also have stickers.
That's right.
Listen, we've got the Haunted Basement ghosties on most of the merch. The ghosties was a Bubba Serrano original design way back in, 2018, when Haunted Basement was the seed of an idea. And it's a cool little design that you can wear on your body.
Put our logo on your body.
So as a special thank you for being a Haunted Basement podcast listener, we are offering all of our listeners free shipping using the code
Boo. B-O-O. Boo.
BOO, baby.
Type in B-O-O and you get free shipping.
Free shipping.
Go to our website, hauntedbasement.video/shop to check out the merch. Free shipping, baby. Boo.
You know what I like to say? I like to say, pick it out and put it on
Pick it out, put it on.
and represent.
If you're enjoying this show, if you enjoy Haunted Basement, buy some merch, god damn it.
And that's it.
We love merch. We love you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening.
Ciao, be well.
Ciao. So we're getting to where I ended up after listening to the A.O. Scott, the Daily podcast. Who are you talking about when you say, quote unquote, Hollywood? For me, it's like the studio execs, and they're probably all old, wealthy, white, straight men, you know? And now that we have all these different streamers and different ways that you can consume media, it makes it so much more diverse. So it's almost like where we're getting to is where the theater was, where it is more approachable for the masses. And movies are becoming the theater because they're way more expensive. And to go now, it's like, oh my gosh, you have to like shell out a lot of money if you want to go see an actual movie in the theater. So people aren't seeing that. It's definitely a turning point for movies and, you know, Marvel. Everyone has a lot of different thoughts about Marvel. But ultimately, I think it's a pretty beautiful thing where, we, as a consumer, you have a lot more options from a lot more people in the past you never would have had access to unless you traveled to different countries. And B, the people creating them are way more diverse and get a lot more chances to actually get what they want out into the world and to maybe have an audience. So it is kind of a beautiful thing.
I think, it is. It's the democratization of movies and music, and I'm sure other art forms, other media is something that is influencing culture right now, our lives right now. I think I feel that way. What you're just saying, I can see more easily and engage with more easily in music. Like I just, record labels do not 100% dominate the music industry anymore. You can be, a self-recorded, self-published musician and generate a following. And it's just, it's easier to make music and to publish it and to listen to it than ever before. And I think that's been great. But at the same time, so that's democratization. That's the wonderful, sunshine and rainbows view of it. But the downside is like there's so much music that people can't make a living anymore without going on tour, constantly. Like the streams don't actually pay for you to make your music?
Can we do a little bit of an exercise? I have in front of me,
Oh, jeez.
today is March 30th that we're recording this. I have a list of top 2 highest grossing films from last year,
Okay.
from 5 years ago, 2018, from
Yeah.
10 years ago, 2013, from
Okay.
20,
Oh, jeez.
and from 30 years ago. Do you guys want to hear them and hear about how it has changed over time?
Yeah, exercise.
Yeah.
So last year, March 30th, 2022, the highest grossing films at the box office on that day were The Lost City and The Batman. The highest grossing film on March 30th, 2018 in the box office, Ready Player One. Third on that
Boo.
list was Black Panther. Now we're going back. March 30th, 2013, highest grossing film was Oz the Great and Powerful. G.I. Joe Retaliation is on that list as well.
Oh, Channing raking it in.
So now we're really going back in time.
Yeah, take us back.
March 30th, 2003. The highest grossing film at the box office on this day was Bringing Down the House, which I am almost sure is that Steve Martin, Queen Latifah movie. I'm just
No.
going
Oh my
to double
gosh.
check.
No.
It is
Yes,
absolutely
it
that
is.
movie,
It
which
is.
I saw.
My
okay?
God.
You're a convict? I did time, baby, but I ain't do the crime. Shoot, Roscoe cracked that dough, I kicked it off the heezy and bounced.
What did you just say?
So
Wow.
this is at the very beginning of A.O. Scott's sort of reign as the New York Times film critic. Second and third on that list, Chicago
Good.
and Old School.
Good.
A studio comedy like Old School or like Bridesmaids. It's just pretty unheard of. That's going to go right to streaming nowadays. And now 30 years ago, March 30th, 1993, top film at the box office was Groundhog Day. Studio comedy.
Wow. So, actually, this is very interesting because after I listened to the A.O. Scott podcast, I listened to Smartless with Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes, and they happened to have Jon Favreau on that episode. Very interesting to listen to that podcast after listening to the whole, A.O. Scott Marvel debacle. But it got me thinking because one thing that Jon Favreau said was, when he was directing Elf, which he said is his favorite movie, which I was glad to hear.
Good one.
But when he was directing Elf, the studio, anytime it was just, they had notes 100% on like any line of dialogue, any joke they had notes on. But all the action, like the sleigh chase and any action scenes, they could care less about. It was just all about the dialogue. Then he went to Marvel and, they're storyboarding the action scenes, and all the Marvel people had notes on was the action scenes. They could care less about the dialogue. So he had free reign on the dialogue. And so he said he like really infused a sense of humor into it. So that got me thinking about like, okay, these Marvel movies, I resisted them for a long time because I'm like, oh, I hate superheroes. But they are funny. They're funny. And yeah, they have like a lot of action, but I was like very surprised at how funny they were. And then I was like thinking about all the other like directors and people involved. And it's like the Russo brothers who got their start in Community and these comedies. And then like Lord and Miller are also background in comedy. A lot of those movies that you just mentioned were comedies. And so now it's just like a new medium for comedy. Like maybe we shouldn't call them superhero movies because they are kind of comedies.
That's right. Yeah.
Interesting, huh, guys?
Can you, off the top of your head, say a line from Elf that you remember?
Yeah. Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color? But the children love the books.
But the children love the books.
Name a line that made you laugh that you remember from any superhero movie.
Oh, I have no idea.
Are we too old for superhero movies? Like, what is happening?
We are the movie snobs now.
Yeah, and people and the movie snobs when we were younger were complaining like, oh, Jurassic Park is a thrill ride, it's not a movie. And now you watch Jurassic Park and like, this is a action-packed, entertaining movie that's old school. A lot of that stuff that I watch on TikTok, I'm like, I don't get it, but I wish you all the best.
It's like the Beatles, This is the Marvel Avengers or the Beatles of this generation.
Wow. She said it.
Yeah.
Have I done
She
it?
said it.
All right, I'll see you guys later.
I don't know if you've done it, but you definitely have put something out into the universe now. Things are changing. It's good that people are recognizing the change, and it's, we're talking about it. That's all we can do.
Do you guys have hopes for the future of entertainment, specifically movies and television?
I just hope that the studios treat their viewers as audiences versus just numbers a little bit more, because it seems a little bit crazy right now. Like, maybe Netflix, chill out a little bit. Maybe you don't need a new show to automatically start 2 seconds after my last show ended. Maybe I want to think about it a little bit more, or maybe I just have to pee. Like, chill out, man.
Chill
Stop
out.
getting all on my grill. Give people a little bit more time. Like, respect your audience a little bit more. They'll come back. We'll come back. Just give us some time and space to appreciate what you have given us.
Yeah.
I completely
I
agree
think-
with you, Ashley.
I think my hope for the future is less about what Hollywood's going to do and just more about my personal habits. And my hope is that I can be more selective with what I watch and when I watch, and that will somehow make things more valuable and more of an engaging experience. Not just a binge in 8-season-long series to fill up time, but to be a little bit more intentional about watching certain things.
It's a really good point. You said it earlier, like, the pandemic certainly changed people's behaviors and how they consume things. And so I think it's important, as we continue to come out of it, like you just said, to exercise. It's like anything. You have to practice it. You have to practice stepping away, being like, okay, tonight we're going to watch a movie. Tonight we're going to book a babysitter and we're going to go to the movies. Like, you don't just have to sit in your chair. You can take a breath and plan things out a little bit more, and things are going to be okay.
Yeah. Basically, yes, it's being more mindful about my media diet. That's all I want to do.
Koopy too.
Hi, Coop. Do you have anything to say about movies?
Oh,
Coop is the dog, Ashley's boxer. She's a cute one.
Coopies.
My hope is that Netflix, whatever sort of requirements that they have for the lighting of their shows and movies, that's like so bright it blinds your eyes.
Or so dark you can only watch them at night.
I hope that gets thrown in the trash. And I hope visionaries, people who have unique perspectives and unique stories and unique ideas, I hope they continue to get enough money to be able to have a chance to find an audience. We watched the trailer for the new Wes Anderson movie that's coming out in the summer. I'm not saying that Wes Anderson's the best filmmaker. What I am saying is you watch 5 seconds of any of his movies and you know that is a Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah.
I would like a few more of those filmmakers where you can identify, oh, it's sort of like a friend. Oh, I know who that is. I know that personality. Let's have more of that.
Let's have more of that, baby.
Okay, I'm done. I'm off my soapbox. Thank you for listening to this episode of Haunted Basement.
Tell us what you think.
Yeah, tell us you know what? Listen, here's the email, baby. It's hello@hauntedbasement.video. That's hello@hauntedbasement.video. Send us an email with your thoughts. You can type them up, or you can send us a little audio snippet that you can record in your voice memos app if you have an iPhone. Just let us know what you think. Let us know what you thought of A.O. Scott's announcement that he's stepping away from film criticism. Let us know about your media diet and what you hope for in the future of Hollywood and the streaming services. And
We'd love to hear from you.
we'd love to
We
hear from
want to. Yeah.
Okay, smooches. We'll talk to you later, people.
you. Smooch you later, baby.
Bye, peeps.
Bye-bye.
Bye.